Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. I'm here. It's Friday. I'm going to, here we go. Here's our guest. We had a little confusion as to which platform we were going to be using, but here it is, Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, and I am thrilled to be chatting with you today. As you know, I founded the Sales Pro Network to be a place to elevate the profession of sales. I'm a sales coach, and I work with individuals and organizations to help them make more money, and that's what the Sales Pro Network is all about. Hold on one second. Lee, you can't hear me? Okay. Anyways, while Lee is getting his audio together, I will continue. So the Sales Pro Network is designed to help you make more money and to elevate the profession of sales. It's a place where you can come and ask questions, get coaching, get help, share your successes, your challenges, and every Friday normally at 10 a.m. Eastern, we do a live broadcast where I bring in wonderful guests or I do a training, and today is no exception. It's my pleasure to introduce you to my friend Lee Salz, who I think can hear me now. Lee,
I can hear you now, Jeff. We're good.
Life is good, baby. All right. Why don't we jump right in, because I've got a lot of questions for you.
Fire away.
Could you maybe start out by giving us the 2-minute version of what brought you up to this point? How'd you get into sales and sales training and all the things that you do?
Okay, so gosh, I've been in sales really, I feel like my whole life, and I tell salespeople this all the time. You know, when you first come into the world, you're naturally inquisitive. Kids are the best salespeople on the planet, right? I'm sure you've heard that before. They really are. But I evolved into sales. I fell in love with the fitness industry. I competed in bodybuilding when I was in college, and got into it from a business perspective. My first job out of school, I was the executive director of a chain of health clubs in Syracuse, New York, and very quickly discovered there's not a lot of money in that industry. So I decided the fitness thing is going to be a hobby, and still to this day, I compete in powerlifting, though, instead of bodybuilding. But I loved sales, and that was my first foray into it, and was involved in various industries and sales management roles in addition to sales.
Got it. And what did you love about sales? What do you still love about sales?
What I love is, first of all, the challenge. One of the things I look at whenever I meet with someone, there's a set of challenges that they're experiencing that's led them to have a conversation with me. And my favorite books growing up were Encyclopedia Brown. Did you ever read those?
No.
Encyclopedia Brown. When I had kids, first thing I did was buy a set for them. Encyclopedia Brown, each chapter would be a little mystery, and the crime solver was Encyclopedia Brown. And my objective was always to solve the crime before the author told me what the answer was. And I've applied that to sales, and for me, that's always made it fun. Even today, my favorite show is Law & Order, the original one. I've seen all 456 episodes of it, many of them more than once, but I've always loved solving. And that's what I've always looked at with sales. I haven't looked at it as I've got to push my wares, I got to get them to buy something. There was a mystery to be solved. And solving that mystery ultimately led to a business relationship beginning.
I love that. I was a Hardy Boys guy, but I did the same thing.
Oh, yeah, the Hardy Boys.
I want to figure out the thing before the author actually tells me. And Law & Order, my now ex-wife and I, we used to record it all week. And then on Friday nights, we'd order Chinese food and just watch episode after episode. Used to love it. Absolutely. So
that's funny. My wife and I were dating. Law & Order was still new. There were still new episodes. So I'd go over to her place. I think it was Wednesday nights. I know they changed it, but usually Wednesday nights. And we would bring in food and we'd watch that week's episode.
Absolutely. So you've written 2 different books on sales differentiation. How do we differentiate ourselves, which is an important topic. What actually got you interested in this topic of sales differentiation?
Yeah, so I'm going to show my age here. I'm 52, okay? And I know you're in New York City, right?
I'm just outside. I'm on Long Island.
Long Island. All right. So remember the show The Golden Girls?
Sure.
Okay, picture it. 1986. 17-year-old boy needs a summer job. Family friend has this new business idea of dry cleaning transportation. He didn't have this dry cleaner and he said, I'm going to go do this. He just said, I'm going to start a business strictly around dry cleaning transportation. And he hired me as his driver. Now, remember, Jeff, 1986, this isn't like today where there's actual companies doing this. It was a revolutionary idea. It didn't really exist. At least it wasn't commonly known. Now, I'm his driver. I'm looking at this new business idea, and I'm hoping this idea is going to work because I needed the cash. I'm 17. So very quickly, I received the answer, would people pay more for this service? Because there's no discount. He didn't own the dry cleaner. It was a cost on top of the service. So, Jeff, what do you think the answer was? Would people pay more for that service?
I don't know what you mean by dry cleaning transportation. Is that delivering the dry cleaning?
Picking up and delivering. So coming to your house, picking up your bag of dirty clothes and bringing back clean ones for you.
Got it. Okay. So do I think people would pay more for that service? I think they would.
The answer was some people. So this is Marlboro, New Jersey, about 2-hour commute into New York City, into Manhattan. So those who work locally, who had somebody who could take their dry cleaning to and fro, didn't see any value. They just saw it as cost on top of their dry cleaning, which they really didn't want. But there are a lot of people in Marlboro that commuted to Manhattan. And they didn't necessarily have someone to take their clothes to and fro. And in 1986, Jeff, as you know, we didn't dress like we are right now. You wore suits, so you needed these clothes. So for them, not only did they love it, they wish they had come up with the idea. But that summer job, I learned 3 really important lessons. And they're lessons that I worked with the sales teams that I manage, and I work with my consulting clients on today. The first one is that price is not the primary decision factor when people buy. They will pay more for what they feel is meaningful value. And we forget that word meaningful so often. It's not just sell the values, meaningful value. That means understanding the individuals that you're selling to so that you can figure out what you have to offer that would be meaningful to them. The second one was know your audience. And so often the price issue comes up with salespeople for one main reason, Jeff. You know what that is?
They don't see the value.
They don't know who the right audience is to sell their value. Does your audience like free stuff?
I think everybody's audience likes free stuff.
I think I would agree with you. If you go to targetclientprofile.com, you will find a 9-component template that will help you gain clarity on who will see meaningful value in what you're selling. And the third is to know your differentiators. Know them so well that you don't even have to think about them. But the key is to figure out a positioning strategy so the person on the other side of the desk becomes just as excited about those differentiators as you. Because in the absence of that, you know what wins the day? Price. Yeah, every time.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of not selling on price, and I truly don't believe. Look, I believe there are some people who only buy on price, but I believe it's the vast minority that really they're looking for relationship and value, and it's our job to share it with them. And clearly, somebody knows you, Lee. Good morning to everybody who's watching us live. If you're watching us on the replay, please put replay into the comments, and if you're here live, please put your name in there. Good morning, Ben Gibson. I'm not sure who the other one is, but there's a Facebook user who. Oh wait, I can actually show you this. Who says, I love Lee's stories. Lee, tell the snow removal story. Get ready to buy your differentiating concepts coming. All right, so what's the snow removal story? We got to know that now.
Snow removal story. I tell that story in sales differentiation. So as you can tell from my accent, I live in Minneapolis, but I'm an East Coast guy. I grew up in New York City and New Jersey. And the culture here is very, very different, as is the climate. So when I moved here, one of the things I discovered, not only is it pretty darn cold, but you get a lot of snow here, more than you do East Coast. And on the East Coast, there's a different way that we deal with snow. You see, in Minnesota, there's tons of snow, and what people love to do here is they get their snow blowers out. It's like a grand old minus 20 degrees. Everyone's having a grand old time. Snow blowers, shovels, loving removing their snow. I'm an East Coast guy. You know how we deal with the snow, Jeff?
Not like that.
No, we get a guy. We get a guy. So first thing I did, I moved here. I got a guy to deal with my snow. There's this website, I think it's called Thumbtack. And what I did was I went in there, put in my criteria, and they connect you with a guy, if you will, to deal with your snow. So I put in my criteria, and one of the snow removal providers reaches out, and it turns out he's from the same city I am. So we're having this nice bantering back and forth, and he was a good guy, if you will, and I was planning on using him. Then I got all the providers' prices, and his price was factors beyond all the other ones. And I was disappointed because I was planning on using him. So I sent him an email, very short email. All I said was, I wish your price was lower. That's all I said. He sends me this email back. It's defensive. It's my fault that I don't see the value in what he's selling. Totally my fault. And I tell this whole story in sales differentiation. But the email, there were 5 mistakes in it. When I read the email to audiences, they're like, oh, that was a pretty good email. And then I dissect it, and it doesn't read so well. As a matter of fact, I delivered this talk for a fitness manufacturer. So I talked through that section, took a break. The CEO comes up to me and says, you read that email. I thought it was fantastic. I thought to myself, I've written that email before. I won't again. Because one of the takeaway messages was the ownership of your differentiation is the salesperson. Salespeople have to own it. If someone doesn't see the value in what you're selling and the price issue comes up, don't get angry, don't get defensive. Take it as constructive criticism. What they're saying is the price you've presented is not commensurate with the value that you've demonstrated. So you need to fix it. You've got a sales problem. It's not the buyer's fault.
I'm with you 100,000,000% on that one. Good morning, Ray Schwetz. Good to see you here, my friend. The one who loves lead stories. I don't know who you are because you haven't connected your Facebook account to StreamYard, but if you put in another comment, just say who you are so we can say hello to you. Lee, your new book, and I think you've written several, your new one's called Sell Different. I'm assuming you've done more than one interview like this, but I'm going to ask you the stupid question, which is, what's different about Sell Different?
Really?
Gotta know.
Jeff, is that really nice? I mean, you invite me to come on your show. We've known each other a long time. And in the first few minutes, you're putting me on the spot. Do you think that's really a fair question to ask me?
I actually do.
It is. I agree with you. Salespeople, whether your buyers ask you that question outright, like Jeff did with me, or not, that's the big question that's on their mind. And if you can't articulate it, if you can't demonstrate it, price wins the day. So let me answer your question very directly, Jeff. What's different about Sell Different? Sales has never been tougher than it is today. Competition is fierce. Differences in features and functions from one provider to another, they're super subtle. It's more challenging to differentiate what you're selling than it ever has been before. But Jeff, maybe you've had a different experience than me, but I haven't seen any executive saying, hey, salespeople, I know it's tough out there. We're going to lower your quota by 50%. Go ahead, sell the deals at 20 points, fewer margin. We're cool with that. Have you any of your clients doing that? Have you seen any executives doing that?
No, and they're also not doubling the commissions either.
No, they're not. They still expect salespeople to win at high rates while protecting margins. Or as I just trademarked, win more deals at the prices you want. How do you do that? How do you do that when the differences in what you're selling are so slight? Well, you have to sell different, which means looking at every touch point, every interaction in the buyer-seller spectrum, and look for ways to outsmart, outmaneuver, and outsell the competition. And that's exactly what my book, Sell Different, is all about. It helps you do that. So it gets into how you generate leads, how you generate referrals, how you handle discovery meetings. Everyone wants to talk about how you improve closing rates. Do a better job in discovery. Closing rates take care of themselves. How you sell in a virtual environment. When I wrote the book proposal for HarperCollins, there wasn't a chapter on virtual selling. Then this little thing happened, the pandemic. Now there's a chapter on virtual selling. How to deal with the ultimate deal killer, fear of change. So often we bury our heads in the sand and we just hope the deal is going to happen. Even though we've made a strong business case, still somehow the deal evaporates. It's because fear of change has won the day. And so much more. It doesn't matter what you're selling, a product, a service, or a technology, or if you're selling B2B or B2C, it doesn't matter. There's 15 strategies that I present in this book, each a chapter dedicated to each one. I present not only what it is, but step by step how to put it into practice. I'll give you a little peek into the kitchen, Jeff. First thing I did during editing, I sent the manuscript to several of my executive clients. And I said, I'm not looking for you to clean up grammar or spelling or any of that stuff. Here's what I'm looking for. What could you not implement based on how it's written? That's all I want to know from you. Because my objective is for you to be able to read this book, read each chapter and say, I get it. Now I understand how to implement it. You don't have to hire me to put these into practice. A lot of books out there, they just wet your whistle. They tease you a little bit, but you got to hire the guy to actually put it into practice. Not with this book. Each one of those strategies is clearly laid out so that you can put it into practice.
It's fantastic. Yeah, like the Challenger sale is an excellent example of that. It's a brilliant methodology. Unless you're a multi-billion-dollar company with a lot of really smart salespeople, you're going to have a very difficult time implementing. And I believe I've got to pass out your book to one of the teams I'm currently managing. They are in truly a price-conscious industry. It really, I always get nervous when somebody says, oh, yeah, we're a commodity. We've got to sell on price. But they really are. I mean, they sell bubble wrap, and there are other people who sell bubble wrap, who manufacture bubble wrap, including huge billion-dollar players in the industry. So I'm going to have to hand it out to them. One of the things that people often do is they compare salespeople to athletes, and I know that you take issue with that. Why is that?
I do. So I mentioned at the outset, I'm still an athlete. I compete in powerlifting. I have two sons who play college baseball. I have clients that are professional sports teams. And we've all heard that comparison, the contrast where we look at salespeople and we contrast them with professional athletes. And there are a lot of commonalities, I agree. But there's one difference so strong that almost completely invalidates even putting them in the same breath. If you look at professional athletes, they work hours, days, weeks perfecting their craft. So when they're in the moment of competition, muscle memory takes over. They perform flawlessly. What do salespeople do, most of them? They play the game over and over and over again, hoping to be better. And to whose peril? Not just their own, but companies. So if you're inept when you make a prospecting call, that individual you just talked with now has a perception of the company and what you're selling. And if you were inept in how you handle that, it's a negative perception. Good luck to the company. Good luck to the next salesperson trying to get in the door. We use this expression so loosely, professional salespeople. And the question I like to ask is, have you earned the right to refer to yourself as a professional salesperson? Well, the fact that you're watching this show, you've taken a great step and you've said, I want to be better. I want to learn more. See, an athlete asks himself this question. What can I do today to be better tomorrow? You want to be a professional salesperson? Ask yourself that question. What can I do today to be a more effective salesperson tomorrow, to be more valuable to my clients?
Yeah, I use the same example all the time, or a similar example all the time. I'm not a sports fan at all, but I always use the example of football players. You've got a guy who makes $20-30 million a year for throwing a ball 10 or 30 feet. And to me, they should throw it perfectly every time, which they don't. And then there's another guy who makes $10 or $15 million a year who's supposed to catch it. At that amount of money, they should be catching it every time, but they don't. But my question is always, what do you think these guys are doing all week long? They're not sitting around eating bonbons to wait for Thursday or Monday night or Sunday, whenever the game is. They're practicing each and every day, and they're practicing the fundamentals. And that's really where I think a lot of salespeople just don't go go the right way. It's all about practicing the fundamentals each and every day. And I love what you said, get a little bit better every day instead of saying playing the same game every day, which is what most of us do. We keep repeating the same mistakes over and over. Most salespeople
and I'll tell you, Jeff, I hate the expression role playing. I don't believe in it. I don't think it gives enough seriousness to what that is. It's skill practice. And I'm not saying salespeople are going to love it any more than role playing, but it creates a different flavor. Just like mom and dad made you eat your vegetables because it made you healthier, right? Skill practice for the sales managers that are watching this, put it into play. Put it into play. Have your salespeople demonstrate mastery in the four walls of your offices before they go out into the field. They're not going to love it. Let them love you on payday. Let them love you when they made President's Club.
Absolutely right, Lee. My business has transitioned, like so many in the last year and a half, to doing way more coaching than I'm doing training. Training kind of dried up at the beginning of the pandemic. It's starting to come back now, but I've been doing a lot of Zoom coaching. I like the term you just used because I do role play with people, because if you're not practicing, when you get in front of the live prospect or the batter who's ready to take your head off with a screaming fast pitch when he hits it right back at you, you're not going to be ready, and you're going to get hit in the head. And you're look. I always say that what we do comes with an incredible responsibility. We owe it to our companies, whether we own them ourselves, and we owe it to our prospects to do the best possible job, or we owe it to our families. There's a lot of responsibility there. And most salespeople, you've probably heard the same reports and read the same reports that I have. They don't read a single book. They don't go to a seminar. They don't do anything to improve. I know every time I go to my doctor, which thankfully is once a year because I'm a healthy guy, he's always got books on his desk. My lawyers have books on their desk. Constant learning. I read almost all the sales books that come out, and I'm an expert, as I know you are. But there's always something that somebody else has figured out or knows that I didn't, or maybe they have a better way of expressing it. But you got to be constantly doing it. And speaking of athletes, I know you tell a story about the college recruiting experience for your son. Can you share that, and what's the takeaway for salespeople?
Yeah, I do want to come back to one point you just mentioned, though. I'm going to confess something, and I confess it in the book, but if you haven't read the book yet, you don't know this. I hate reading. I hate it. Much to the chagrin of my mother, who is a New York City evaluator in the schools. I hate reading. I didn't say I don't do it. I said I hate it. And my deal is I won't write a book that I personally wouldn't sit down and read myself. That's one of the keys. So you'll find the book is written in a way that it's actually enjoyable. It's not a dry sales book. It's lots of stories and techniques to help you put them into practice. So you're asking about my son, Steven, and his college baseball recruiting experience. So Steven's one of these kids. He's in high school, and he says, I want to play college ball. So, okay, great. At the end of his junior year, he's asked to play on our American Legion baseball team. If you're not familiar with American Legion, this is where the colleges come recruiting top talent. And Jeff, in the course of a week, he hit 4 home runs and 3 doubles. In one tournament. And all these college scouts were in attendance. So you can imagine the phone starts ringing. Now, if you've ever been through a college recruiting experience before, you know it's a sale. These coaches are trying to sell you on their institution, but they can't differentiate what they sell. They can't add a major. They can't move the dorm. They can't change the menu in the cafeteria. Can't move the campus. All fixed athletes. What do they have to do? They have to sell different. And some coaches really get it, and they do it really well, and others fail miserably at it. Now, Jeff, when you first drive onto a college campus, as soon as you cross onto the border, your blood pressure jumps about 30 points. You know why that is? And it's not the tuition.
No, then I don't know what it is, because I've got 3 kids all in college right now, and for me,
I
it is
do
the tuition.
too. I do too. No, your blood pressure jumps 30 points because you can't find a place to park. Every single parking lot on a college campus says, park here, we're going to tow you, but welcome to our fine institution. Am I right, Jeff?
It's true.
So this one school we went to visit, pull into the parking lot, and there's a spot with Steven's name on it. How cool is that?
Brilliant.
Stopped us dead in our tracks. Then we go inside. There's an agenda for the day with Steven's name printed right at the top. What did it cost this college to do these 2 things? a penny, right, for the paper and the ink. Think about what they did. They made us feel like Steven was the only athlete they were recruiting anywhere on the planet for any sport. Of course, that wasn't the case, but that's how they made us feel. We have that same opportunity in sales, and we forget. We forget to make people feel special. You know, you've all heard the expression, sales is a numbers game. And I partially am with you on that. I think that's a piece of it. If you fully buy into sales is a numbers game, you know what happens? You make people feel like a number. Anybody like feel like a number? I sure don't. We want to feel special. So that's for us. We have to think about this, all right? It's not just another discovery meeting. It's not just another presentation. It's just not another proposal. You see, for you, you may do this all day long. You have calls and meetings all day long. But for them, it's one. It's one interaction with you. You may be doing this all day long. They're having one interaction with you. How are you making them feel special? And unfortunately, we don't think about that enough. Looking at that journey, the new client acquisition journey, at every touch point, look for ways to make people feel special. And we miss it. We miss it.
Yeah.
So, it's an interesting side note with that, Jeff. I have another son, Steven's brother, David, pitcher. He's now a freshman in college. He went through the same baseball recruiting experience. He didn't apply to one of the schools that was on Steven's list. See, Steven had 7 schools that were chasing him. The one that was at the top of his list, bags packed, this is where he's going, Jeff, was number 7 at the end of the process. They didn't get rid of a major, didn't knock down a dorm. The recruiting experience was a turnoff. They said the words, "Oh, we really want you." The actions didn't support it. They made him feel like a number. So David, when he went through this process, didn't even consider that institution. David's a nationally ranked pitcher. Didn't consider that school because of what his brother went through. Think about this when you're selling. If you make someone feel like a number and they don't buy from you, it's like the old shampoo commercial. They tell 2 friends and they tell 2 friends and so on and so on. You didn't just lose this deal. You've jeopardized tons of accounts just because you made them feel like a number, which was completely avoidable.
Lee, I knew I'd be doing a lot of nodding during this interview because we do know each other quite a while, and I
Yes.
agree with almost everything you say. And I can't tell you how many times I've told people, make people feel special. Because most of the time we just don't. And when you make somebody feel special, it feels great. I'm sure you've had the same experience that I have, where you show up to a company to do some training and there's a sign on a board that says, "Welcome Lee Salz," or "Welcome Jeff Goldberg." And what did it cost them? Like you said, a penny, less than a penny. But
Right.
It's like, wow, they took the time to make me feel welcome. I
Absolutely.
do feel special, and it makes me want to do a better job. Now, I always want to do a great job, as I know you do, but it makes you want to give that little bit extra.
Absolutely.
If you're a comedy fan like I am, Ricky Gervais
Yeah.
has a special called Humanity. And, the people are going crazy when he walks out and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to do extra special for you. I'm going to work extra hard just because of that."
Yeah.
But yeah, you make people feel special. It's crazy not to.
You know who really gets it? Actors, particularly like Broadway, which just as real,
to it.
right? They're doing the same show a couple times a day for how long?
Years.
And they recognize that for them, they're doing it repetitively, but for the audience, they're seeing it once. So they have to deliver that show as if it's the only time they're ever going to deliver it. So when we talk about making people feel special, it's not hard. It just requires some thought. You have to think about it. How can I make them feel special in every touch point, every interaction that you have?
Yeah, you beat me to it. I was just about to say the same thing, Leah. It's not my favorite show of all time, but I happen to have seen Phantom of the Opera 5 times.
Okay.
Taking various people to see it. Every time it's the exact same show. Every time the actors hold their hands in the same way, they sing the same songs at the same time, they look, everything's the same, but it feels like they're doing it for the first time. And we have to remember as salespeople that it's the first time the prospect's hearing on it. We can't go in there bored and give that same. There's a word, I can't even believe I'm about to say the word because I hate it so much. pitch. I hate the word pitch, but that's what people do. They go in, hey, thanks for seeing me today. I really want to respect your time. Let me tell you why Jeff Goldberg and Associates is the greatest coaching and training firm in the world. I call it throwing up on the customer's shoes. We got to be better than that. And you have an interesting take about competition. I have a similar take. You even go so far as to say that most people haven't really identified their biggest competitor or their toughest competitor. Who is a salesperson's toughest competitor?
Oh, I love to ask salespeople that question. So imagine a big keynote audience, because no one has ever answered the question correctly. I'll ask, who's your toughest competitor? And I'll call in a few people and they'll rattle off 3 names, 3 players in their space. And of course, those are tough competitors, but there's one even tougher. And then someone will go, with a little attitude, oh, you mean that old sales trainer one, the status quo, the choice to do nothing. Also a formidable competitor, but there's one even tougher. And then they lean back and they look up and they go, it's me. I'm my toughest competitor. You see, because if I don't have the right mindset, I'm not going to be effective. And they're not wrong. They can be their toughest competitor if they don't have the right mindset. But there's one even tougher, Jeff, more formidable than all of them. And no one has ever guessed that competitor. You know who it is?
Tell us.
It's every salesperson calling the same person you are trying to get a meeting. See, we're egocentric when we think about competition. Let's put ourselves on the other side of the desk. Let's say you call on CIOs and you sell a software product. So think about a CIO. A CIO is getting calls and emails from salespeople representing their entire purview of responsibilities and beyond. And they're all selling the same thing, Jeff, a meeting, FaceTime. And I don't mean the Apple technology. I mean an in-person meeting or a virtual meeting. Now, I'll give you another nugget here. I went to college in upstate New York. It was called SUNY Binghamton. Now it's Binghamton University. And I was a history major. And while I studied history, I learned many historical business facts. So let me share this one with you. In the entire history of business, there has never been an executive hired for the sole purpose of meeting with salespeople every hour on the hour. The job doesn't exist. So we're an interruption in their day. No one's looking at their phone going, oh my gosh, I hope a salesperson calls me. Nobody's doing that.
Or a sales trainer.
No one is doing that. So if we understand who our toughest competitor is, which is all of these people trying to get a meeting, all these salespeople. So you're not competing against a couple of players in your industry. You're competing against hundreds, maybe even thousands of salespeople trying to talk to the same person you are. And many of them today are wearing so many hats. They're never sitting at their desk, and I assure you they're never staring at their phone, praying that a salesperson calls right now. So we're an interruption. And what that tells us is we need to personalize that experience, because if we make them feel like a number, guess what? We never get to the table. So if there's no meeting, there's no proposal. No proposal, no win. No win, no commission check. Very logical, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, my son is up at Bing right now. He called me 10 minutes before you and I went live. I said, I've only got 5 minutes because I got to talk to somebody. But yeah, he's at the Binghamton School of Management.
Oh, excellent. Have you had Speedies with him?
I have not, but I've been told I have to have Speedies.
You have to have Speedies, absolutely. And the wings in Binghamton are to die for. It trickled down from Buffalo. Binghamton, excellent wings.
It's a long drive to get up there. I have a daughter at New Paltz, which is a little bit quicker, but the one at University of Virginia is even further. But you do what you have to for the kids. You brought up an interesting topic that I love discussing, prospecting. I'm hearing that from a lot of salespeople today that almost everything is dead except social selling and referrals. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people, cold calling is dead. Outbound prospecting is dead, if it ever lived. What's your take on that?
I've heard that too. There's a well-respected firm called the Rain Group. I don't know if you've come across them.
I have.
They study this topic, and they asked executives if they had ever taken a meeting with a salesperson who had reached them through some type of prospecting. You want to guess the percentage that said, yes, I've taken a meeting with a salesperson who reached out through prospecting? What would you guess the percentage was?
Ever? I think it was 100.
82. 82. When I ask salespeople that question, you know what they guess?
Nothing.
1. 82% of executives said they took a meeting with a salesperson who had reached out to them through prospecting. But then they took it a step further. And they found the secret sauce, the secret ingredient in that sauce that led to getting that meeting, which was personalization. Back to this whole thing about making people feel special. If you're making generic calls, sending generic emails, save yourself some time. You're not getting the meeting. Personalization. That was the key. And in my prior book, Sales Differentiation, I lay out this concept called the sales crime theory, which gives you the tools to personalize that experience.
Yeah. I get disgusted on a daily basis. Look, I'm a fan of making sales as easy as it possibly can be, because it's not an easy gig. People,
No, it's not.
I'm sure it beats digging ditches in the sun. Not that I've ever done that, but it's not an easy gig. And I'm a fan of automation, but I'm sure that, like me, you get these reach outs on LinkedIn all day long. Hey, I'd like to connect with you. Then you accept the connection. And 10 seconds later, I'd love to speak with you about how I help coaches like you earn $1 million a minute with no effort on your part. Will you speak with me? Yeah, if you could really do that, I would talk to you, but stop it. I don't feel special at all. I know this is a bot. Don't do that to me. So I'm with you 1,000,000%.
I'm laughing because I say all the time, I can measure with an egg timer from when I hit accept to when I'm getting a solicitation email. And you're being conservative. I think the number is now, I can make you $1 billion a minute. And you do nothing.
Do you want an endless flow of qualified leads with little to no investment? Yes, I do, but you can't really do that. And I don't feel special. And I think it's so crucial. I keep coming back to that. I'm going to move on, but that thing about making feel special, it always reminds me of the Carnegie quote about it's better to be interested than interesting. When you're interested in somebody else instead of let me tell you why we're the greatest, that's when people want to listen to you. That's when they want to have a chat with you. Because to me, that's what selling is. It's just a chat. It's not about convincing. It's not about persuading. It's just go in and have great conversations. You use the word discovery. Ask questions.
And you raise a great point. There's so much subtlety in word selection. I never asked for a meeting. It's a conversation. You just said the word. Never do a meeting is formal. Anybody want to have a formal meeting? Of course not. Conversations. It's inviting. So it's a Zoom conversation today, right? Because we're meeting so often virtually. So having a Zoom it's not a Zoom meeting. It's a Zoom conversation.
Yeah,
I sound like George Carlin, I think.
I learned Carlin was a killer wordsmith, but I learned the importance of choosing words carefully. When I attended my first sales training 47 years ago, it was Tom Hopkins champion the internet. I saw Tom live, and he started talking about what he calls red flag words. And to this day, I still use that theory. Signature, I never ask somebody for a signature. I don't call a contract, even though it is. These are words that are designed to turn people off. When you ask for somebody's signature on a contract, the first thing that comes to mind is, I got to talk to my lawyer first.
Absolutely. Scares you to death.
Yeah, we do all kinds of things that make it more difficult for people to do business with us instead of making it easy, which we should.
Yes.
How about, there's another question that I get all the time, and I know my answer, but what's your thought? What are your thoughts on leaving a voicemail if you're prospecting on the phone?
So again, showing my age here. Do you remember the old Miller Lite commercials? Taste great, less filling.
I'm older than you, Lee. I remember it all.
You remember it. Okay. Right. And you can do the same thing when I do a keynote with the audience, when I ask about leaving voicemail messages. Passionate on both sides of the aisle. Leave a voicemail. Don't leave a voicemail. Leave a voicemail. Don't leave a voicemail. And after everybody settles down, I'll say, all right, so let me ask you this question. So let's say we finish our talk here today, and you check your phone, and there's a voicemail message from a salesperson saying, hey, I've got $10,000 for you. Give me a call. How many of you are calling back? Jeff, no hands go up. I said, well, what if the message was, I can cut your cell phone bills in half? You're calling them back. Again, no hands go up. Sorry, let me try a third time. What if I said, I can reduce your interest rates by 5%? You're calling me back. No hands go up. I go, wait a minute. I've offered you money. I've offered you cost reduction and you're still not calling me back. What can I possibly say in a voicemail message that's going to get you to call me back? And you know what the answer is, Jeff?
I don't, but that's the $1 million question.
Nothing. Nothing. The only way you're getting a call back from a voicemail message is if you have serendipity, meaning I'm looking at my cell phone bill and going, you know what, there's got to be a better alternative. And you happen to leave me a message saying, hey, I can reduce your cost. Then there's a good possibility of getting a return call. Beyond that, not happening. So based on that, you probably think I'm anti-voicemail and prospecting.
I was just about to ask you.
I'm not. I'm a huge proponent of it. But I think we got to think about it differently. So I'm going to take off the table this getting a return call. I think this medium is valuable, but I'm not going to use it looking for a return call. As a matter of fact, I will even say in that voicemail message, I'm not expecting you to call me back. How's that for different?
Very different.
Of course, you still leave your number because you may have serendipity. Let's take off the table, return call, and we're going to use this medium to spark intrigue, to wet their whistle. So when we connect with them live, they have some context. They're intrigued. They want to talk with us. Not expecting you to call me back. I'm going to use this medium to create some intrigue. And if you do that, now you're using this medium in such a way that you're furthering your prospecting endeavor. And you take away so much frustration. Jeff, I'm sure you hear the same thing. I leave these voicemail messages and no one ever calls me back.
All the time.
Right? All the time. Well, let's take that off the table. You're not getting a call back. And for all the reasons we talked about. But that doesn't mean there's not value in that medium. You have the opportunity in a very short period of time to give a little soundbite that sparks interest, creates intrigue. So when you reach them live, they want to talk with you.
So am I correct that you would also encourage people to use email the same way?
Well, email. So I put together, and it's in a chapter of Sell Different, a 16-day prospecting rhythm. And there is a time where you leave voicemail messages. There is a time where you use email. There's a time where you use an Outlook invitation. But I lay out this sequence over 16 days, and the sole purpose of that sequence is to give strategy that helps you reach elusive prospects.
Yeah, I like a multi-pronged approach. And I've never heard the I don't expect you to call me back. I like that a lot. It also removes at least some of the anguish from the salesperson. Because,
Right.
I talk to people, Jeff, I left 100 voicemails. Nobody called me back. I want to shoot myself. Who'd you think was going to call you back?
Right.
I mean, look, I used to be able to get about 40% of my calls returned, but that was 10, 12 years ago. It's gone down and down each year. Now, truly, even with people I'm coaching and training how to do this, if they get 1 out of 10 calls returned, if they get 1 out of 20 calls returned, I actually consider that a good return right now.
That's a miracle.
Pretty damn close. Let's see. There's a Facebook user whose name I can't see, but she or he. Let's see what they're saying here. I immerse myself in ensuring that my Trustpilot reviews exceed expectations. I sell breathalyzers, and the customer wrote, I am so glad I got a DUI. So I could be lovable Larry Lumerman.
We don't know that person's name, but I will tell you, I spent 10 years as an executive in employment screening. So I know all about the workplace drug testing, breathalyzers, and all of that stuff. So that's a pretty good story.
Too funny. You also say that sometimes salespeople, they overcomplicate the prospecting process. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, salespeople and executives, they're searching everywhere, under every nook and cranny, every rock, trying to find more of their best clients. And in Sell Different, we should probably show them this. Don't you think we should show them this?
Absolutely. I have a picture later, but yes.
Look at that. I almost match. How about that?
I should have worn my blue shirt, but next time.
So I lay out a strategy in Sell Different that we'll talk about here now. Still buy the book, of course, even though we're going to tell you the strategy, but it's going to help you find more of your best clients. Notice I said more of your best clients. I didn't say your biggest clients because oftentimes those aren't synonymous, right? When you look at your biggest client, they might be low margin, good name to have, but low margin, or some solution that you're not looking to replicate. So again, we talked about that target client profile. So if you go to targetclientprofile.com, you can download this document, 9 components to help you gain clarity on exactly what your best client looks like. So I call this strategy the If You Were Me business development strategy. And Jeff, I'm batting 1,000 with this. Have you ever had a strategy that you're batting 1,000? I haven't.
Yes, how to piss off my ex-wife. That one works every time.
Every single salesperson I've ever shared this with who's tried it has come away successful. That's what I mean by batting 1,000. So I'm guessing now you're all intrigued. Here's how it works. I want you to select 10 clients that meet the criteria of your best clients. When I say best, as in, if you could, you take them, stick them in a copier as a way to replicate and grow the business. Of course, we can't do that. It'd be nice, but you're going to pick 10 of them, just 10. And you're going to have a conversation. Jeff, we're not sending a text. We're not sending an email. We're not leaving a voicemail. It's either in person or on the phone. And you're going to ask a key question. So let me set the stage for the question. You know, Jeff, you've been working with us a long time, so you're familiar with what we offer and the quality of what we offer. Now, here comes the big question. If you were me, what associations would you be active in? What conferences would you attend? What events would you go to? What would you be reading to meet more people like you? Selling doesn't have to be complicated. It's an open book test. We make it so much harder than it needs to be. You can find more of your best clients by just using the clients you already have. Now, you'll notice I wasn't upselling. I wasn't cross-selling. I wasn't asking for referrals. I wasn't asking them to serve as a reference. All I asked them to do is take my hat, put it on their head, and share with me their counsel. And you'll find people are so gracious. They really do want to help. They got to be asked, but they really do want to help. And that little part at the end, to meet more people like you, it strokes their ego. It further invites them to help us. So, Jeff, I said I'm batting 1,000 with this. Can I share a couple examples?
Please do.
Okay. So one of my coaching clients gave them the assignment, have 10 of these If You Were Me conversations over 2 weeks. At the end of the 2 weeks, an hour before we're supposed to have the update call, sales manager sends me an email, subject apology. We only were able to have 4 conversations over the 2 weeks. We've been very busy. I attached our findings. Jeff, 4 pages full of notes, takeaways from 4 conversations. There was no need for an apology. This is fantastic. I'll give you another one. So I tasked this coaching client, this is one salesperson, 10 conversations in 2 weeks. He got 7 done. At the end of the 2 weeks, we were supposed to have a coaching call. He had a 45-minute update on everything he learned from 7 conversations. He found out about a technology council, didn't even know about it in his own backyard. And the client says, by the way, I can bring you as my guest if you'd like. Well, yeah. And then a couple months ago, he had an opportunity to present at that council. He couldn't get in front of these CIOs no matter what he was doing. Now he had an audience because of the If You Were Me strategy. Now, one of those 7, he had the conversation in person with his CEO sitting next to him. CEO didn't know about the strategy. So towards the end of the meeting, my coaching client asked the If You Were Me question. That night, I get an email from the CEO. And it said this, Lee, it feels like this is the question I've been missing for the last 15 years of my life. Thank you. Watched it in action today. Nearly cried. Spectacular. Folks, the strategy works. And this is a perfect example of the point that I made at the beginning. You don't have to pay me to do it. It's all laid out for you step by step to put into practice. That's what I mean with the book being completely encapsulated, lays out the strategy step by step to put it into practice. You don't need to pay me to be able to do it. And it doesn't cost you anything to put any of the strategies that I lay out in the book into practice.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. Again, I've been saying this for years. Your clients are your best source of business intelligence. Ask them.
Absolutely.
I had an experience recently, which I'm sure you'll relate to. I'm debriefing after a year and a half consulting engagement with a company. It's finished. We've done a great job. Everything worked out the way I had hoped it would, and the way they wanted it to. The reason they paid me all that money and invested all that time. And I'm sitting down and debriefing with the entire sales management team. What'd you like? What didn't you like? All the questions that I'm sure you ask.
Yeah.
And I learned something that I had never heard before. The
Okay.
VP of sales says to me, Jeff, here's the thing I like best. Our sales team now has more confidence. And I'm sitting there and I'm going,
Outstanding.
holy crap. It never occurred to me in my entire career that I give salespeople more confidence. Never occurred to me. I teach them the skills and tips and tools and strategies and techniques, and I give them mindset and all the things that I know you do too, but it never occurred to me I make them more confident. Well, you can bet now that everybody I speak with, my clients tell me one of the things they like the best is I give their salespeople more confidence. Ask your clients. They'll tell you. Have good conversations. Jeez.
Absolutely.
We're getting close to running out of time. We've only got time for a couple more questions, and I've got about 75 more I want to ask.
Okay.
You make a very interesting point, which I agree with, about discovery and probing for pain. Can you share that point?
Sure.
Because I think it's huge.
Yeah. So every salesperson on the planet's been told you have discovery meetings and you got to probe for pain. And then we find it. What do? We write it down and we think we're moving closer to getting the deal. And we miss a critical step when we find that pain point. There's an introspective question that we have to ask ourselves and ultimately identify with the individual that we're meeting with. Is this pain an inconvenience or a problem? Those aren't synonyms. Inconvenience or problem. Inconveniences may be shared as a pain point, but they're willing to live with it. They lived with it yesterday. They can live with it tomorrow. It's an annoyance. It's bothersome. We all have them. We don't do anything about it until what? It becomes a problem. So only when an issue elevates to the level of problem do we take action. What does action mean? We invest dollars, time, and resources to address it. We all like to use that word solutions, right? Solutions don't couple with inconveniences. They couple with problems. And so the mistake we make is not understanding which of the two we have. And so what happens? We get this false level of security that this deal is really going to happen, and then it evaporates because the pain points are really just inconveniences. Now, sometimes you have an opportunity in sales when you see it's really a problem, they see it as an inconvenience through education to help them see this is something they need to act on right away. You'll also have situations where you meet with a mid-level manager and they have to get approval from the folks up north in the org chart, and they have a disconnect. They see it as a problem. The executive team sees it as an inconvenience. If you have that and it's not resolved, that deal goes nowhere. So part of your role in sales is to help counsel that mid-level manager with the tools and the knowledge to help the executive team to see what they see, which is this is not an inconvenience. This is a problem and it needs to be addressed now. So there's a section in Sell Different dedicated to that entire strategy.
Got it. You also talk about a strategic selling opportunity that 99.999, keep going with the nines.
Yeah.
People miss, and that's a lot of stuff to miss. What opportunity are salespeople missing almost every time?
So I was being conservative. The number's actually bigger. So imagine this, Jeff. You just had a 1-hour discovery meeting, and it meets the criteria for a great discovery meeting. You found challenges, you found pain points, and the pain points are problems, and they're ones you can address. You've got action items. They've got action items. They ate up your differentiators. Loved them. And the deal's so good you can taste it. You walk back to your car or you turn off the Zoom meeting, and the whole thing plays in your head like your favorite movie. Jeff, what's your favorite movie?
The Godfather.
Godfather. Okay, Caddyshack. I show my maturity there.
I love Arthur too. Don't get me wrong.
Here's the flaw. We think they remember the meeting just as vividly as we do. Doesn't dawn on us that after our meeting, they had 7 other meetings, 126 emails, 16 voicemail messages, from salespeople trying to get FaceTime. And each one of them layers on top of our meeting, making it a distant memory. So here's what over 99.999% of salespeople don't do is send a recap email. A recap email. Same day as your discovery meeting, and it has 5 sections in it. Your objectives, meaning what they shared with you they're trying to accomplish. How we can help, which is your opportunity in writing to present your differentiators that they ate up during that meeting. My to-do list, what I said I'm going to do. Your to-do list, what they said they're going to do. And next steps, what we both agreed upon we're going to do next. And I'll tell you why this is so effective. I don't care what CRM you're using. That email cannot get exported from your CRM. You got to write it. So now you're showing genuine interest, which means you're making them feel special. And all these salespeople we talked about trying to get their attention, now you're standing out. Jeff, how many times have you had a meeting with someone, a subsequent meeting, and they were supposed to do things and they didn't do them, and you sit down and like, oh, Jeff, I'm so sorry. That's right. I said I was going to do this and that, and I didn't do it. So now the sales cycle gets protracted. We know, particularly in a B2B sale, you met with one person, there's other people that are going to be involved, so you write it in such a way that this email can be shared with others. They get brought up to speed. They get just as excited and intrigued. And like I said, you stand out from all the other salespeople calling on that individual. Again, in chapter 11 of Sell Different, provide you step-by-step how to put that into practice and even provide you a sample so you can understand exactly how to add this to your game.
And how much more effective is that than just a thank you for your time? It was a pleasure meeting you, and I can't wait to talk to you again, or whatever they're going to say.
Hey, you show that you heard everything.
Yeah, it's going to make them feel special because you're showing them you listened and you're trying to make things happen. I love that. Lee, I'm sharing my screen right now. Could you just tell us what are the different things that you offer? And I've got your website here and your phone number. But why don't you share them anyways with people? If they want to reach out and get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
Perfect.
What do you offer?
Perfect. So we just launched the new book, Sell Different, and the book website is selldifferentbook.com. If you go to that website, you can download the first chapter free so you get a flavor for what I'm talking about. And if you buy the book, you can sign up for a special video series that I've put together. Every week for 52 weeks, you're going to get an email with a link to a video to help you implement what you just read about.
Got it. Okay. And let me just say that Lee's book, Sell Different, is available. It's in hardcover. It's on Kindle. It's an audio book. You can find it everywhere. All the major retailers, Amazon, Porchlight, Audible, all that stuff. And Lee, you're suggesting that when they buy the book, no matter where they buy it, they go to selldifferentbook.com to get these special bonuses. Is that right?
Correct. And if you like audiobooks and you enjoyed the interview here today, I'm the narrator, so you can imagine how much fun we have during the audiobook.
Right. And if you haven't already seen Lee's prior book, which is Sales Differentiation, you should grab that one too. You make a pretty strong
We can show them both. Look at that. Boom.
You make a pretty strong promise with this book, Lee. What's the promise?
That if you read this book and you say, there's nothing here that's going to help me sell more effectively, help me win more deals to prices that I want, my email address is in that book. Email me your receipt out of my own pocket. I'll give you your money back. How's that for a promise?
I don't think you hear that very often. Lee Salz, I knew I was going to have a great time speaking with you because I always love talking with people who I can learn from and agree with, which I almost always do with you. Thank you so much for generously sharing your time. Great luck with the book. And if there's ever anything I can do for you, please let me know. Any final words for the Sales Pro Network today?
Go out there and win more deals to the prices you want.
Beautiful. And as I always end, please remember, guys, sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks again, Lee.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.